probably like 5 years ago. It might not work.
All right, it is 6:20. We will continue with the Board of Selectmen meeting for September 24th, Milton Town Hall. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First on the agenda is public comment. Asking everybody to have public comment, please come to the podium, and prior to making your comment, state your name. Do I have any public comment?
Thomas McDougal. It's been 6 months since we sat our new selectmen, and it would be nice if we knew how to get hold of everybody. That's all.
Thank you. Do you have any other public comment? All right. I'm not seeing any. I will continue on to new business. First on the agenda, we have recording clerk agreement. Danielle?
In your packets, there is a contract. If all approved, I would like to see that signed to be taken into effect immediately. Currently, we're operating under past practice. This just protects both all parties involved.
What do we do with everybody else in town?
Meaning,
Everybody else that takes minutes, recording clerk.
there's one other department that there's one other committee that has their own recording clerk, and it's out of their budget. I can't speak for them.
The budget committee has a person that does have a recording clerk, and they do pay them out of their budget. I can tell you, before Danielle did it, it took us a while to find somebody to be the recording clerk. We've had, and before Danielle, there was a woman who did it remotely by the video. She would watch them for the video. Before that, there was somebody else who did it. We've had problems in the past getting a recording clerk. So it's been an ongoing battle to get a recording clerk. Right now, we have somebody who comes to the meeting, takes the minutes, does them. Sometimes it takes, we have very short meetings, because we have special meetings. There might be something that's going on, that we're opening bids. Other times we have longer meetings. Sometimes the minutes may take 4 hours because you go back and you review them, you replay them and everything. During budget seasons, it's not unusual for minutes to take probably 8 or 9 hours to do because they're so long and they're so detailed and you're rechecking them. Other times, they're not as long, so it's just the detail. There is a contract, it's part of our contract line, so it just goes back and forth.
So I don't know if you guys have had a chance to read through them, but I read through them and they seem pretty basic to me. It's just an understanding of what the recording clerk's doing, what we're doing.
I just wanna make sure that we're level playing field across with all the other departments, in the town. I mean,
I don't think we can tell other boards how to take their minutes.
There's currently only one other board. The school board has their own budget, their own
Budget committee
personnel.
is paying the same fee for this too. We have to have the minutes posted within so many days by state statute. That's what we have to be concerned about. The draft has to be posted and people need to be able to request them.
I didn't get my book till this morning, so I haven't had a chance to look at it. Can we just table it till the next meeting, so I have a chance to look at it?
I would really appreciate a board's vote on this. We're going into budget season and it would really help tie up all loose ends on every part.
I've had a chance to read through it, and my personal opinion is it's pretty basic. It almost kind of reminds me of the agreement that we have with the library trustees that we signed, that it kind of states a lot of the obvious and either party can break it, which it goes into that in detail in there.
It reflects back to your bylaws as well, that this particular board had created and adopted.
So, Andy, you're
I mean, she's reading it, I mean, I've read it, so I just wanna make sure that it's, the playing field's level for everybody in the town, so that's my only concern.
Budget increase the same. I think that's irrelevant, for the board, I think it's relevant.
If you're implying the ZBA and planning board, that's all tied into the actual staffing, that's not additional.
So I guess we need to make a decision if we're gonna vote or table.
You guys keep talking, I'm almost.
I was just gonna say, I'll wait for her to finish, and that's,
Maybe I just want to put that as a- do that.
Correct, this contract says September to March,
I didn't read the
March
first, yeah, I
would be
started on the second.
the start of a full calendar year. I didn't find it proper to have new board members. If a new board member comes in and decides that
We'll change
the
it.
then current board members want to do
Make a motion.
adjustments,
I'll second it.
Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Um,
you can sign off for us.
If you wanna add that to your motion,
I authorize Ryan to sign off.
Second it.
alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Ordinance starts.
Yep, put it on this.
What's on the next thing?
Okay, so next on the agenda, Melanie, will be acceptance. Heather has a quick comment before.
I just wanted to say, getting into the, Nick can get out. The fire chief really spearheaded this development of the EOP, process, and I think we all felt the need for it last week or week before when we had the issue in Lawrence. And of course, he went down there, and we're really grateful that he put so much time and effort into thinking about the needs of the town and the community and forward thinking and planning for us. And so we're really lucky to have him put all the effort into it.
This
So-
is state mandated, so.
I know it is, because I was in the other town too, but he did put a lot of effort and time and made sure
Read
we
this
were all
guided
ahead of it.
version of this, cause it, I make a motion to accept the Milton NH trust.
Reader's Digest version, do you have any questions? Start with that. So it's that every 5 years the plan has to be updated. Andy sat on the plan as the EMD the last time, and basically just have to go through and make sure everything's relevant, and it's a state format. So obviously, the state changes things every few years, so we updated it into the new format. And if you don't have any questions, there's 3 things that are gonna need your signature. One is the acceptance of the plan, statement of adoption, and then resolution basically saying we're gonna follow the federal government incident management system if we have an incident. And then, basically there's a signature sheet for, which I don't think you guys will have to do tonight, saying you got your packet and you understand or you have access to it. So I basically just need at least 2 motions.
I'll make a motion for both of those to approve them.
You have the
Second.
I'll second it. Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Do you have original there, or do you want to sign these ones? Oh, she does.
in case you did not see when you picked up your packets, this is the full plan. I'm not sure.
266 pages.
If anyone else wanted to look at
We
it,
had every word read to us.
not
Lauren.
printing it again.
What's EOP?
Emergency Operation Plan. So basically,
When the dam breaks, it's in that plan.
there's, you can go.
All right, so next on the agenda, we now are under old business. First up is employee handbook update. Heather?
Yes, this is something I worked on a little bit and consulted with our police chief on. It's an update to section 4.7, firearms and other weapons as they relate to health and safety in the workplace. And, I'm gonna ask Chief Krause, would you like to speak to it, or?
The board has questions?
Is this what he sent us over the weekend?
Yes.
I already read it, so
Yeah,
Okay.
same,
So,
I have no questions on it.
I just need the board to approve it.
I'll make a motion, we
So,
approve.
before, did you run that by?
I read
Legal?
that, Carrie, she
Okay.
was fine with it.
Okay.
4.7,
4.7, 4.7.
which is basically firearms in the workplace, correct?
And 4.7C.
We'll second it.
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Thank you.
We're just gonna fix it.
All right, next up, insurance buyout discussion follow-up. Heather?
I've seen that as it was going on.
Okay, you have the insurance buyout, the most updated list. I made some more calls, as you requested, to New Hampshire Municipal Association, had 11 towns that basically fit into the same municipal population and some of the demographics as us. So I got some more information. They were kind of all over the place. Some of them were 3,000, some of them were 5,000. I got a call back today, that's why, there's one of them that has 25 times 2 a year down there at the bottom. Still, we're waiting for some responses. Some of them have very convoluted process for how they figure this out. So, I was looking for some more guidance from the board as to whether we could consider increasing our buyout because our insurance cost is so high. And we're looking at, our insurance costs.
What is the school district?
The school district actually is the ones that haven't affected. They did.
Me.
Maybe go back to you.
Summersworth Schools is 14.
Okay. We'll add them to us. Is that for single or family or just family?
Family.
Okay.
Not on there.
School is 3,000 a year, so you go back to Daniel, I guess.
Is that single or family?
Is that single family? Did you ask? Okay.
I got a number.
I got a number, okay.
County is $50 a week.
County's $50 a week, so that would be, okay, okay, that's another place. So, I'm looking at the cost of our insurance is so high that I'm trying to come up with the reasons. For buyout.
And that's in your budget,
It's in my budget. A lot of questions I'll be asking.
Which is
Department heads. which is
coming up.
that part of my budget will be in the last few months, because I need to ask all department heads how many people are gonna be eligible for benefits. Department 50. From each of their departments.
It's scheduled currently on that paper.
My budget itself will be the
It was
first.
originally scheduled for the first,
My budget.
but to get the proper number from all the other benefits presenting on the 15th.
So my health insurance part, my budget will be
what is the insurance looking at, like for the year, what are they projecting it
We're talking about 6 to 10% increase.
over this year's? Where are we at this year as far as our, what we budgeted and what it actually came in at?
We're not, we've had a lot of positions that have been unfilled, which helps.
That's what I was kind of getting at, is,
The positions are unfilled, we're not spending total amount. But those positions end up being filled.
we don't have to act on this tonight anyways.
No, but I'm just trying to get you the information.
All right, so is the board satisfied with what we have for information?
Do you want me to continue to
Yeah, I would keep, I mean, there's some,
keep working on it?
I mean, I'm looking at the list and I really don't, I'm kind of looking at this area, where it's, you know, the Farmingtons, the New Durhams, the Altons,
Yeah,
this.
they didn't match population-wise, I went by what NH, so you want Farmington?
Well, I'm just saying, and then not just towns, it's schools, I mean, I don't know, I know it's like, my option is $1,400, and that's in Summersworth, what's, you know, we're talking $5,400 in Milton, that's a big chunk of change, so.
Any further comments? Good. Okay. Moving on, next, under old business, town report printing cost discussion. Heather?
Okay, town printing costs. Last week we brought up the cost of the printing costs and when it happens. The reports have to be done by the deliberative session, which is traditionally the first
Right,
week.
I got that.
Okay, so that has to be done by the first week of February anyway. The invoices here are the 28, the town reports are $2,800, so that would double it if we did 2 different printings.
Why would it double it?
Because if you're talking about doing 2 different
Well,
reports.
I'm not doing 2 different reports, I'm doing the town report as of January 1st, the book that everybody gets.
Okay,
And then the second part would be the deliberative session that's sent to the voters. That doesn't need a whole book, all it's gonna be is the minutes of the deliberative session, part of the meeting. That is, the town report gets held up every year for waiting for the deliberative session, and it's usually like a week before you go and vote, the town reports come out. So what I'm after is to get the town reports into the taxpayers and voters' hands right after January. We got all our data for the year, January 1st. Send it to the printers, get the books, so hopefully the books will be here by middle, the end of January at the latest. So people have it, and then we have the deliberative session. That can be a separate printing that comes out, you know, to what the results of the deliberative session are. What I'm saying is that things that are in that, if you go back into the old town reports and look at what was in there, what was given out for data for the people to see, the taxpayers that are paying the bills, it's in those books. And half of the stuff isn't in there anymore. But, you know, I know there's gonna be an increase on the printing cost as far as if you do property appraisals. But then again, the biggest appraiser is your next door neighbor telling you the value of your house is, you know, it's gonna pay for itself. Is transparency, is you wanna see it, this is what, everybody that gets paid $1 in the town of Milton should see exactly what Andy Lucia gets paid. And that should be in the town report, that's, look at the old town reports, that was, so it's basically checks and balances. And I understand there's gonna be an increase in the printing costs, because we're gonna add pages or pages. there's parts of the town report where, I don't know, I just think that we need to give everybody everything that we've got. Is, we can look at line items as far as, police officers, total salaries. Well, it's one figure. You don't know what Johnny Doe makes it now. It's just, that is just transparency. Is everybody, you're a public employee, people are paying you, when they pay their taxes, they're paying the bills. So I just think to be transparent for everybody, look at the old town reports, and then that way you've got the book. You're not getting it, 2 or 3 days before you go make a decision on, on paying, how you're gonna vote. So I just thinking, so that's, so then you go to the deliberative session. After the deliberative session, then there's another book that comes out with what the deliberative session sent to the voters. So they're gonna get it the same amount of time. The only thing they're gonna get different is the actual town report. The deliberative session minutes will come into another.
It doesn't have it.
But I'm saying that you're holding up the whole town report. You're not getting the town report until after the deliberative session, which is, what, a couple weeks?
We get the town report from Howard. That comes out before the deliberative session.
The book itself, if you look at the old town reports, if you look at the old town reports, if I went and bought a dump fire, I got $3. It says in there that Andy Lucian put out the dump fire for $3. Everything is transparent down through. It's not.
Well, so you're just saying add salaries in there.
And then property valuation. That's the best assessing that the town of Milton has, is the town report, because you look to see what your neighbor pays for taxes, like, well, sometimes he's paying, 20,000, his valuation's 20,000 left than mine, so.
We have to have the town report out by the deliberative. That has to be there.
I understand that, but the deliberative session, it's bing. If they have the book, they go to vote in March. Let's say March 4th is elections. They've got the book for the whole month of February. You've got the books at their house. The biggest problem is with the distribution of the books now. Unfortunately, it used to be everybody could go anywhere and pick them up. Well, now you can't go to Cumberland Farms, so they don't allow it. Dollar General you can't pick up. Is to get the books available, unless you come into the town hall or go to Milton Hardware, where else can you pick up a town report? So I'm just saying, to add into the town report, go back to the old days of when you put everything that happens in this building into that town report, as far as the assessing, the property values, goes into the books. The only thing I'm a little bit about is, and that would, I think maybe legal needs to give us a thing as far as, back taxes. Back then it was like, you didn't want your name in the book. You paid your taxes to make sure your name didn't show up in the books. So if you go back and look at the town report, you didn't want your name to be in that town report, but, so that's just my,
The fire chief had his hand up at the board, agrees to recognize them, I will.
fine.
I just looked at the 2016 book. There's no deliberative session minutes for 2017 in here. So there shouldn't be a holdup with the deliberative session. It's the 2016 minutes that are in the 2016 book.
So why are the town reports not available until the week before town meeting is what I'm getting at? If we, in the book, January 1st, the deliberative session, actually minutes of the meeting that are in there though, correct?
From the year of the report.
But the ones coming up for this year in it, no? Nothing for this year?
The only thing for 2017 or the upcoming year is the yellow pages, which
Right,
is the warrant
correct, but
article.
that's
That's done late in January anyway.
right, but that's what I'm saying, that book is held up until that part goes into that book. What I'm saying is that yellow section of that town report is holding up the printing of that book for over a month. That can come out as a separate entity, that doesn't have to hold up the book, and then put the back, go back into the book and put in everything that deserves to be in the book. I mean, I really don't care how many woods fires they had in the White Mountains. I mean, yeah, I know they send it to you just and you cut and paste and put it in there, so. The things bearing on Milton, I mean, how many people get served by, community action? What does community action do? Meals on Wheels, that stuff needs to be in there.
It's printed.
I understand that part is in there, that part I get, but the things that get cut out of it from, I've been here my whole life, so it used to be your evaluations, and people come flying down because it was like, well, how come his house is valued, less than mine, and there again, so it's checks and balances, and taxpayers have the right to see it, so it's. And I know they cut it to save on printing costs, but then I think in the end, I remember the town meeting, I can tell you who stood up and made the motion to put it back in, so. I just think in light of transparency is.
Right, no, also today though, in regards to just your point about the evaluations, it's all online, and you can easily go online and.
Nothing easy about going online.
It's very easy to go online and pull, you can go
Well,
down
the
the street.
problem
and
being,
just go
I'm
click on
gonna
that.
come to the defense, because not everybody in this town goes online.
True, I understand that.
It,
I'm not saying it's a necessarily bad idea, I don't know how many pages it would add, but I'm just saying I think it's more available today than it was back before the computer age, where it was all,
I
you had
personally
to come into
just,
town hall and request to look at the coverage.
I personally just, that's my opinion, even if I have to put it in as a motion, I'll make it a motion that. And there again, I think everybody needs to know that if I make $200, it's in there, it's not in a line
So,
item, it's.
You make
Maybe-
sense in the
Maybe what we should do is, when the time comes closer, is we should have a workshop where we can go through the draft of the town report and see what's in there and what we
Well,
would like to have added.
we're getting into budget season, we're not gonna have a whole heck of a lot of time for,
I know, but we gotta, just to make a broad statement, it's gonna be pretty difficult to have people know what they need to focus on, right? I'm just trying to kinda aim the focus a little bit more. You
Okay,
mentioned
that's
evaluation,
fine,
you
I mean,
mentioned salaries, but there's a lot that goes into the town report, so I'm just trying to come up with a better way that we can communicate as a group to determine what we really want in there.
Let's look at it in November. We'll look at it, come up with a list of things and add it to the agenda for the second week in November. And Right,
Let's take a
an
what we have
outline,
in
right.
the, let's take a what we have in the,
and come up with an outline of what needs to be added or wants to be added or
Or take
whatever,
it out.
and do it the second,
Or you
the
take it.
second meeting in
Well, I just
November.
don't
Old one
want-
and a new one,
Right.
and
well, I
go
just
through
want
it.
people to know, ahead of time that this is gonna be coming. If, department heads know that January 1st, your report, has gotta be into the town report, to the town office, cause it's gonna go to the printer, so.
The board would like to recognize Michelle.
So,
Yeah.
is it okay? So some of the reports that are generated, like in my case for my department, we don't close our books until like the 8th of January. That's to make sure that checks for taxes or for motor vehicles actually go through, get deposited.
Right.
So you would not be able to get those reports
Well,
before.
that's fine, but I'm saying January 1st. I understand there's some logistics as far
Right.
as what's, I get that part of it. I mean, the part that I'm kind of up in the air about is, the unredeemed taxes and.
What's the turnaround for the printer? Do you have any idea?
Michelle?
Just another idea, you did notice that some of the older books have those assessed values separate, it's a separate booklet from the town report, so consider that too, if that's what you wanna put out there.
Well, I mean, there's that part that's missing out of it. There's the you can look at the line items of what the total, like, police department, full-time employee, but it doesn't give you what each
Person makes.
person makes. I mean, as a taxpayer, that's what everybody wants to see, and so, I just thinking, so.
All right. So the consensus that we're gonna revisit it in November.
Second.
Second meeting in November.
next on the agenda, building permit fees and policy discussion.
Okay. This is something I started talking about last. This is something we're gonna need to have some more conversations about. Enforcement of code violations. If we have an issue with a code violation that comes up, for instance, someone doesn't get a permit and they start work. I started to look at what happens in other towns. I liked Wolfboro as a nice little flow chart. If you look in your pamphlet, your book, how they worked it. I gave you some information from LGC, who's in charge of hearing these code violations. Sometimes it's the planning board. Would be a little bit challenging because the problem becomes in this town, the person who would be actually implementing the fine would also be the appeals board because it's our planning board chairman is our code enforcement officer. So that's a little complicated. Some other towns it's the zoning board. Some other towns that I've talked to, it's also the board of selectmen. So we need to do some more research. We need to get more legal opinions on this. But the nice flow chart that Wilbur has, it really makes it, I think, pretty simple to work with. So I just wanted to see that's where we are, and this is what we're working on.
Yeah, I had a chance to look through this and there's quite a bit of information here and I thought there's several different ways that seem like they are definitely a good way to go, so I don't know.
I think we need to put those plans, but
Rest of the board has any comments?
I think it definitely is something that needs to be addressed.
we need to put some kind of policy and procedure in place.
Shouldn't bring the drive by my house, I have a permit.
I didn't even do anything, but. In terms of, we need to cite the chapters and where things are being done.
Right.
We just need to, so, I think this is another conversation that needs to happen with our code enforcement officer, but also to look at what other towns are doing, cities are a little bit different.
So
Ongoing.
if I think the board's consensus is we wanna continue with this and want you to continue with this, is there a date that you could give us that maybe you could come back to the board with a proposed process and procedure of this is what I'm proposing based off all of this and this is what we're following?
In conjunction with the code enforcement, I think, right?
Yes.
I need to.
Yeah, sit down with them and.
Fire chief guys.
Can I also be involved in that too, because there needs to be more, uniformity between fire department and code enforcement as far as sign-offs and COs and that type of stuff, because currently there isn't much. To avoid future issues, I think now would be the time to try to resolve that too.
Yeah, definitely.
Hopefully we should and come back with more by December 1st.
Sure.
Over.
It's good. I understand there's never been a procedure for code violations in this town.
There is one now, kind of.
It doesn't work, or you're doing it, or.
We need to unfortunately stick to the agenda and unfortunately a public comment section at the beginning of the agenda, so. We're not taking public comment on each action item. The only comments that we're taking, and it's consensus of the board, is from department heads. And this is all outlined in our bylaws, which can be found on the town website under the Board of Selectmen tab. Just for clarification.
We're gonna table the next one, he's out of town, so.
Okay. And actually on that came up at the, so next on the agenda is townhouse heating and cooling discussion. And Aaron is requesting that we table that, which I'm good with. But I did at the planning board meeting. Unfortunately, since the Board of Selectmen can't talk, it's very difficult to have a conversation, because I would have like to just call Aaron up and tell her this, but I can't. But since that's over the $10,000, it should be part of the CIP,
Okay,
and it really should be ranked and rated through the planning board.
okay.
So we'll have to just work all together to have that aspect of it done too. So that's part of the charge of the planning board.
Okay.
So unfortunately, add another layer that we should probably go through. So. All right. So next up, other business that may come to the board is department budget presentations. So just before we start this, I think that we as a board need to make a decision on how we are going to do the budget process this year. Are we gonna wait till the end to vote on everything? Are we gonna vote as we go? Any other suggestions from the board members or comments from the board? On how we want to proceed? I just think it would be, I think we should all agree before we start, so
Right.
it doesn't become chaotic.
You know, I personally want to hear the presentations tonight, not make a knee-jerk decision as far as, you know, I don't know whether to do like this, do this tonight, and at the next meeting, vote on these that we're hearing tonight, and then, I just don't wanna, you know, I don't know, I just,
Right, no,
Time to digest
yeah,
it.
to digest it, I mean, I've got questions, you know, I've gone through them, and I've got questions on them, but it's, you know, I wanna hear the presentation to back up, and then,
Yep.
before I make a decision, it's,
okay, so,
Is that a motion?
yeah,
I mean, I don't know if we need a motion,
no,
but
I mean, it's
I
fine.
just think as long as we have a consensus, just to
Yeah, I agree.
summarize. So we'll hear the presentations, we'll hold our questions till the end of the presentations, do we wanna do that? And then
What's
we'll
easiest for the
vote
department?
at the next. I don't know,
It probably depends on the size of the budget too.
yeah. Well, we don't have to state how we're gonna deal with the questions, so.
Would you take that on a case-by-case basis as
Yep.
each one is presented?
I guess what we could say is if the department had request that, they'd rather have the questions asked as we go along, or be held to the end, just please let us know at the beginning of the presentation. How's that?
Andy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with it, I just think that, you know, to take it, get it tonight, and then come back before we finalize it.
Okay, so, that being said, we ready to start? So first up, we get economic development.
Budget that I sent. $2,500. Which is the same amount as last year.
2600, right?
Oh, I thought it was 25.
Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong
I'm
application.
gonna say, this one isn't printed out, which one is it?
Economic
It's
development?
one that came in the packet that was sitting on top of the desk.
2019 economic development, 2,500, it's the same amount, it's broken out a little bit different. This year, instead of 1 line, it's economic development training, 800. Economic development printing and copies, 100. Economic development equipment purchase, 1,000. And then economic development, 600. Miscellaneous, 2,500. So it comes to a $2,500 total. I think everyone's doing some, she might be able to speak to the question.
Do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions on that.
So it's level,
What's the equipment purchase line?
The equipment purchase is signage,
Sign, oh, okay, all right.
like the ERC signs that we're doing putting up downtown.
All right, so is the board good with economic development presented budget? Not to vote on it, but
Right,
just to
yeah,
move on to
yeah,
the next.
yeah.
the next one I've got is the budget committee.
Okay, budget committee?
Want me to give it to them?
I think they all have it, but you can, they have it in your packet.
You don't need you don't have no questions on it?
Oh, well, no, you can explain it since you're here.
Okay, 'cause right now, on the expense report, we only have one line. It's $2,600. It's too wide. There's a lot of stuff that's in it that should be broken down. So I broke the line down into 4 parts. And the very first one is recording clerk. There's 22 meetings at $75 each. No, yeah, $74 each, which is $1,650. Training, that's 3 at $90 per member. That's the municipal budgetary seminars that they go to. That is $270. Legal notices is 3 at $120 per public hearing, which makes it $360. This is for the public hearing for the town, the school district, and the water district. The printing of copies, I have it at $320. Not knowing what we are being charged, we don't know if it's too high or too low. So I left it here at $320. The total budget is $2,600. This is the same as last year, no increase. Any questions?
I do, I have one.
Right.
You have $1,617 remaining in your budget from this year.
Okay, what it is, you probably see one line with a total in there. I broke it down. If you see, I don't know if you got this column, the year to date.
Yeah.
Okay, that is a breakdown. This is not all recording clerk money that just went out.
Okay.
You see the legal notices at $307. Training, I don't know yet because I don't know how many people have gone, but I should see some money there. It's, and I would like, yes,
That's come out of my line
it comes out of your line.
this year.
Fine, okay.
Okay, I don't need a training line?
You do need it, it should, no, it should stay in your line, but it's come out of my line this year. That's why I'm raising my lines over.
Okay. But
So-
what, okay, it'll
Can
come off
we-
your line.
Can we move it? Well, that's this year's budget, but
Yeah, no,
Okay, what I'm requesting is, I asked Heather if she can put these 4 lines in the budget, because it's a good breakdown of what we're spending and where it's going. Currently, that one line is showing we spent money, but it's not breaking it down to what we really spend. Any questions? What's that? Okay, thank you.
thank you. All right, next up, fire.
Does, yes, you wanna go, Betsy, so?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Such a gentleman.
Is that all right
All right,
with
so-
you all?
I'm good with that.
Yep, we'll jump to library and then maybe town clerk.
I don't mind if you all ask me questions as we go. That's just a copy of the slides. So one of the overriding concerns I've had in the past year is making sure that I have 2 employees for every shift that we're open. I think that Milton NH is a very safe town, but if something happens, we still want to make sure that we are covered. So,
How do you, that angle work for you guys, Andy?
last, for the July trustee meeting, I asked that we increase our budget so that we can have 2 employees per shift. So we are increasing the budget for next year for the part-time salary line from $29,786 to $36,560, and the default would be $35,560. This represents the 2 people per shift and also 1.7 COLA and a 2% potential merit increase. Those increases to be put into effect in July. think I am, right on target for my paid to dates, percentage wise. All right, FICA and, Medicare reflect those changes. The contracted services is, the same as this year. The contracted services line is the website hosting, the website builder, our online catalog, and our, with an easy cataloging feature, the New Hampshire Downloadable Book Consortium. Every month, that particular, product is going, the amount of patrons who are using it is going up. We have a fire alarm monitoring service and a panic button monitoring service. And that is just about, everything is paid to date. The library custodial service, Pat has taken over that line. We have left $1 in there just in case we need to change things in the future. The electric, right now is budgeted at $2,000, and as of the end of August, it's at $615. I understand there's an electrical increase coming up, but I think we'll still be fine, keeping it level funded.
Is 615 left?
No, paid to date.
I think that increase was in August 19th, I think is when it was supposed to pick up, so you should be seeing it probably in this next bill.
Library heat, I've also level funded. I've been keeping track of our oil consumption, and based on the past 3 years, the average has been 1,250 gallons, and I multiplied that out times our oil rate, and we're fine with the 3,500. We have 2 phone lines, one for library communications and one is a dedicated line for the fire alarm. We've paid to date $587.91 as of
I
August.
gotta, I don't wanna get into squabbling about dollars, but, I mean, do you utilize both phone lines, or is the one that's just dedicated for the fire alarm just, because there's a system out there that I think it's an RJ37, basically that if the fire alarm goes off, it takes the phone line from you. So if you're using the phone and the fire alarm goes off, it hangs up on you and it takes the line. So I mean, it's a small number, it's $900, but if, you've got 2 phone lines, can you use that line? Can you use that other line? Can you use the other line?
I could use it.
If you check with your fire alarm company, I'm sure, I know that's the way the systems will work.
That fire alarm we installed 4 or 5 years ago.
Right.
And that was the system that was put in.
But what I'm saying is it's just a phone jack that it takes, so when the fire alarm goes off, if you're talking on the telephone, this jack, it's just an RJ37 phone company puts it in, and it will take the phone line. So I'm just saying, if you don't wanna pay for 2 phone lines, there's a system where you're not paying for it, it just, as soon as that fire alarm goes off, it takes that phone line from you and uses it to send the alarm out. So, I mean, it's just something to look into, I don't know if it's,
Okay.
check with the fire alarm company, I mean, if you need 2 phone lines, fine.
Does that create another safety concern though, if you're on the phone with dispatch and I don't know what something crazy going on and they pull the fire alarm, then you get disconnected?
Well, it does the same thing, everybody's, I hope the whole city was set up that way, so it just takes, I think the school up here is set up that way. It just takes, the phone line and uses it, I mean, there again, it's, in the big scheme of things, it's small dollars, but, so, I mean, it's just something to look into. I mean, I'm not gonna hold it up, but it's just, I mean, if you have, even the second line is use it as a fax line, and then if it, you know, if the fire alarm goes off, it will take the fax line rather than the phone line, but, so. Just food for thought.
Okay. Office supplies. This is book processing, copiering, printer toner, arts and craft supplies, and snacks for programming. And we're level funding it next year. Library postage, I am asking for an increase of $20. We were told that the price of a post office box in Milton Mills was $80, but I was charged $90 when I was the actual cost. And then above and beyond that, certified mailings for overdue items and returns to the Library of Congress. Library program supplies are circulation material, books, DVDs, magazines, CDs, audiobooks, etc. And that's level funded as well. Library equipment purchases are usually books, rugs, chairs, etc. I'm trying to budget one new computer a year. We bought 6 in 1 year previously, but I thought if we would phase in new ones over time, and that's what the increase is.
How many computers?
We have 1 circulation desk computer and 4 patron computers.
How many people use those?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
We have our regulars that come in every day specifically to use the computers. There are people still in Milton and Milton Mills that do not have their own computers.
Oh, I know that, yeah. Good.
Software and hardware for patron computers, $75. Mileage and travel. The past 2 years I have gone over on my mileage. I had one of my employees go to Concord a couple of times for the LCHIP grant. I go to conferences and workshops, and so I'm asking for a small increase this year based on the actual spending. And likewise, the membership and dues, I'm asking for a decrease. The trustees for the National New Hampshire Library Trustees Association last year, the town paid for it. This year they took it out of library funds. And so the rest of the membership and dues are state and regional professional librarians, organizations, and also for the conference fees. Miscellaneous. Last 2017, I had $50, which I didn't spend, and the year before that, $50 I didn't spend. So I said, oh, I have I don't need that, I have these employees that are going to just stay with me forever and ever. Well, as it turns out, my employees don't stay forever and ever. So I would like to keep $50 in there for background checks. And that's what I have. I do, have a comparison. I am asking for, $8,657 more than, this year. And for the majority of that, it is the increase for the, staff. Yes.
Betsy, how many employees would be eligible for insurance or insurance buy from your department?
I have, everyone is part-time, including me, and all of them are under 20 hours.
So the answer is none.
That is correct.
Thank you.
This isn't directed towards her, but it's just for the town in general. Has the town looked at buying electricity through a broker instead of going through Eversource?
We can't because of the agreement with the solar garden. We haven't done it, because the agreement was signed.
How long is the agreement with the solar garden?
Minimum of 20 years.
Thank you. How many patrons do you have? That was the other question I had.
2017, I had just under 4,000, roughly there. And that is a mixture of kids and teens as
Right.
well.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, are we gonna bounce around?
You staying and leaving, or?
No, I'm happy to.
I just don't wanna take a long time, so. It's up to you guys, though.
I don't mind, if you don't mind, does the rest of the board mind?
No, I'm fine, just give me a minute to find it.
All right.
It's the one.
One thing I'd like to say about Betsy, she was the first one to get her budget in of all departments. She's a gold star for that. She does, absolutely.
All right,
Is that-
we ready?
You ready? Yep.
So there is like two major changes in my budget this year compared to last year, and one of them would be proposal for a full-time employee. Instead of having 3 part-timers, I was proposing to have 1 part-timer and 1 full-timer work with me. If you wanna ask me questions as we go, I'd be happy to answer it that way, instead of going back and forth. The salary elected is just with the increase of the 2% and the 1.7 COLA. The FICA reflect those increases, as well as the Medicare. The training is the same as last year. We have 500 put aside, $300 for the spring workshops and $200 for the annual conferences. The registry of deeds we kept at 700. Let's see, the legal notices and ads, I increased from $150 to $300, just from my experience of having to do a notice this year. It cost me quite a bit of money for a new employee, it was over the $150. Professional services has gone down, and that reflects that we're only going to be budgeting for 2 elections instead of, we budgeted last year for 4 elections. That $9,200 would include $3,200 to Avatar, which is our tax program, $700 for Interware, who does our dogs and over-the-counter credit cards, and we do our beach passes, our boat passes, our transfer station decals, all through that company. LHS is the $3,500, that would be the company that does the coding for our ballot machines. Sandra Searches would include $1,500, and she does our searches for our liens and our deeds. There's a $125 budgeted for the town clerk, tax collectors, PO box. $75 for a notary, and $100 for a background check. The printing and copies, we've been able to keep, have not needed in the last couple of years because we've been able to find most of the information online. But just in case that information changes for us, we'd like to keep that line open with just $1.
So, sorry, let me just back up one.
Yeah.
I believe last year, we had a discussion about the PO box. Were we gonna try to just go to one?
It is only one for me.
But I thought one in general for the town hall. Or am I remembering that incorrectly? This was with the previous board, I believe.
I thought that was the
That was the
Treasurer.
treasurer, and then,
because I have ballots that come through my PO box, and I think that's why we always kept it separate.
okay, I mean, I know it's small money, I just
I think it
remember
was the
that
treasurer-
didn't
it was
come up.
the
I know the
treasurer.
treasurer, and then it came up that the town clerk had one, plus the town had one, so
Yeah,
could we do it all in one?
I think we wouldn't wanna get one for ballots, I think that would be the
Yeah.
concern.
Yep. It makes sense, okay. Thanks.
Okay, and then the supplies is $2,500, same as last year, covers the tax bills, the printer cartridges, the drums, the envelopes, the labels, the file folders, all the office stuff that I need to get my job done. The postage, we're gonna leave at $7,100, that seems to be, a really good amount. It fluctuates year to year depending on how many liens I have to do, how many certified deed notices that I have to do. The equipment maintenance, we left at $250. That's for the company that does our coding for our election machines. They actually come out once a year and they inspect them, make sure that they're running properly. The equipment purchase is still at $2,000. I don't think we've really spent that very much. I think I explained it last year. It's really a backup for me in case my safe fails or if one of my printers goes down for motor vehicles. The mileage and travel, that one is the other one that increased drastically. That's going from $250 to $2,000. So currently, my office is the central location for all deposits, and I've been doing the bank runs for the treasurer.
So if we take one of the old police cruisers and make it
I would love that and appreciate it because my oil changes are now occurring because I'm driving my car back and forth.
so what would that bring it back down to?
The $250. Membership and dues are still the same. It's $20 for the New Hampshire Town Clerks Association, $20 for the New Hampshire Tax Collectors Association, and then miscellaneous we left at $1. So overall, it's about a $1,700 increase over last year.
I have one question, so you're gonna, from 3 part-time to 1 full-time,
3 part-time to 1 part-time and 1 full-time. I work over 40 hours a week.
right, what I'm getting at is, so that, I'm looking at the salaries, that doesn't include the insurance.
No, that would go out of the same budget all the other insurances go through.
Which is my budget, which brings me to my question. So, with this proposal, how many people will be eligible for insurance or buyout?
Currently, I'm the only one who's eligible and opt-out. That would mean that there'd be 1 person eligible. Another person other than
so
me.
there'd be 2.
Two.
So we're
two
gonna
total.
we're gonna add 1 insurance,
So
potential
maybe-
1 insurance policy to this,
Yeah,
Possible, yeah.
okay.
so we have 2 out of that department. Or 1 a buyout and 1 not, okay.
And that your increase isn't, well, this bottom number, you're not figuring in your percentage increase for the insurance too, right?
I have no idea what that would be.
This insurance is kind of the other budget.
Just not necessarily because this is Michelle's budget, but just a general question about that. Why is that?
It's because that's how it's been, the insurance has come out of the town administrator's budget, it's one of the budgets, that's how it's handled. None of the town budget, none of the department's budget reflect the cost of the
Or
insurance.
retirements.
Or retirement. Well, no, police and fire have their retirements in there,
Mine does.
but police and fire do take care of their retirements.
Is that typical on the other towns?
No. I will tell you that's kind of unique, but that's how we do it here, so it's okay. Some towns wanna have
But
the,
it doesn't properly reflect.
each town wants, other towns wanna show the cost of actually the department, the cost of each employee. I mean, this is how it's been done here. So, I mean, this is historically how it's been done, so you're not, wouldn't be comparing apples to apples. But the cost of the actual cost of the department, whether it be this department, the highway, whatever,
There's additional cost, that's in your budget.
And I
And
have
it's
no problem
difficult
showing
to-
mine, I agree, I think it should show in my budget.
Like I said, it was just a general question,
No,
not
I agree.
necessarily just happened to come up first on yours, so.
No, yeah, no, I agree with you. Any other questions?
Okay.
I'm good.
Go ahead.
Have a good night.
Thank you. All right, thanks, everyone. Fire?
Nobody,
I'm stuck here, it doesn't matter where I go.
yeah.
You can't.
So, you guys all set?
No, I'm trying to find the biggest
we're gonna
print.
get a fancy one.
Bam.
No. Can you see that one?
Even
Got
with
it.
cheated, I can't see that one.
No.
It wasn't meant to be.
It's,
It was meant to be PDF. So, I put this together the way I've become accustomed to putting things together for the last few years. I start by first of the year, as I pay bills, I have the budget already started. So if there's any changes throughout the year, I make notations. And then I have a sheet where I keep track of every single expenditure and make the adjustments. And then, once I get it all together, I look at the bottom line, like, that isn't gonna work. So I start going back through and figuring out what I can change to get the bottom line back to a more appropriate number. So, you'll see some cuts in here to compensate some things that went up. And again, if you want me to, the PowerPoint is basically the changes, so if you have questions on the Word document or anything in there, let me know. So the full-time salary line increased by $3,647, and that reflects the 1.7% COLA and 2% merit. And I also took a chunk of the night stipend out of that, because they changed shifts in January of last year, so they're not on call as much as they were in the previous year. Part-time salary stayed the same, so that covers the assistant chief salary, and it covers all the call firefighters for their response to fire and EMS emergencies while they're not on duty. So I ran the numbers, you can see again in the Word document where I ran the numbers, and the average is down a little bit. We didn't have any major incidents in the last year that, 8-hour run with 10, 15 guys at it, so we'll probably be a little bit under, so I'm comfortable leaving that at the 80,000. Salary elected, that's my salary, it has the 1.7% COLA, and it does not include the 2% merit, they didn't put it in. FICA is reflected, that's up $107, that's reflective on the salary increases. Medicare is up $78, reflective on salary increases. New Hampshire retirement system is up $1,000. So last year, halfway through the year, there was an increase at the state. It went from 29 to 31 point something percent. So that's up substantially over the last 8 or 9 years. But again, that's mandated by the state. So it's up $1,000, which is strictly reflective on the increased salaries, not on any change in the rate by the state. training stays the same. That's new certifications, fire one, EMT, as well as any continuing education or additional certifications such as, right now we have guys in fire officer one and instructor one through the state. Employee testing, that's for background checks. At some point, I'd like to get, some additional money for, physicals for employees, new hires. With the new cancer law, that's a requirement, to be eligible for the benefit of the cancer, as a workman's compensation. However, it's not something we're currently doing or budgeted for, so that's something one of these days we'll be looking to do. Uniforms is our fire gear as well as the duty uniforms. That's the same at $20,350. Gear went up about $50 a set, and we are budgeted for 6 sets currently. I kept it the same. If I really ran the numbers on what we plan on purchasing, it'd be like another $500 more than that, but. So contract services, here's some of the spots I made some cuts, so it's down $50. The NFPA subscription and the membership combined, it used to be a subscription to be an NFPA member, and then you had to buy the code books afterwards. Now it's just one. It's an online subscription, and it's all together. So, and it's $55 more than it was last year, separated. Post office box went up $17. The copy machine contract, there's 2 different things. There's a maintenance contract and then a supply contract. I did away with the maintenance contract because it was just buying a block of time, or a block of service. But the contract for the supplies was in the lease line, the equipment lease line, which is where the copy machine leases paid from. I pulled that out and put it into contract services because it was more appropriate for something I missed in the past. The CLIA lab fee is something that's required for Medicare. I don't really understand it, to be perfectly honest with you, but it's something that has to do with Medicare and collecting revenue for ambulance, so I transferred that into the revolving fund. The pay clock software, I moved to the revolving fund. That is strictly to pay the staff, which is paid out of the revolving fund anyway. So I figured that software to pay them would be appropriately located there. The IAFC membership increased $10, and we added the CTI, which is our phone company support contract, which is $300. And then the subscription for Fire Engineering Magazine went up $9. Which total for that line is down 55. Electric, I'm asking for an additional $800, and that is strictly based on the 19% increase that took effect August of this year, and that's on the supply line. So if you take the, basically what I did is I took the entire amount and multiplied half of it by 19%, so roughly half is the supply portion of it. And we were actually, if it didn't stay the same, sorry, if the increase didn't take effect, the electric bill would have been a little bit lower than I budgeted. And I took the lower amount into effect when I added 19%, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
One question, Dory, or wait?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Okay. How much is the electric at the Milton NH fire department? What is that number?
Ranges from,
For the year?
I have it right here.
I didn't bring my book in, so.
I have one.
I got it.
For the year?
No,
Oh.
monthly.
Went there.
So it's 73, 66, 68, it's about down to $675 for the last year, and that's December of,
So the remaining
no, actually less than that, yeah, 675.
So the remaining balance in that is for this, for this station up here?
Yeah, $14,000 roughly, 1471.
So let
Is
me
what it's
ask you
averaging.
this, because I'm an early morning person, and I'm not being, I'm just saying, I'm an early morning person, I go for a ride, and all the lights are on up there at the fire department in the bays. Why?
There's 2 lights that are on 24/7.
And it lights it up that much in there?
It's too
What,
early
are
to
they
get-
the LED lights? Did they just get replaced, or have they been LEDs since
They've been
then?
LED since we put them in. The lights in the station are on a timer, so, not a timer, but they shut off at 6 o'clock, and then the outside lights are on a sensor. And I adjusted that sensor about a month ago, and you probably understand it better, but 50% light is when they were coming on and shutting off at 60%. So on cloudy days, the lights were on. So I bumped it back down to like 5% on and 10% off, and I think I can go again a little bit lower. I'm still playing with it.
Right,
But that's not the cost, it's the pumps, it's the climate vent system, it's everything else.
no, I just happened to notice when I
Yeah.
drive by, it's
No,
like,
there's two
why
lights
is
that
it
are on
lit up like
24/7,
that?
so,
They're bright.
yeah. You would know if all the lights were on. You'd see it from the street.
I do see.
Alright. So heat, I'm asking for an extra $1,000, so of that, about $1,000 is Station 2, and a little over $8,000 is for Station 1. And that got bumped up based on historical usage and the data that I've been collecting since we've been in there.
Has that been straightened out?
Yeah, I think so. We'll know when it starts getting cold. And that's the other thing too, is we found that one of the dampers was open, so it was letting cold air or hot air in, so it wasn't able to, on the mixed air intake, so it was taking fresh air from the outside, and it wasn't adjusted properly, so it was taking too much hot air, and the air conditioning couldn't keep up. And we think last winter it was taking too much cold air, so it was burning more. But we found that this summer, and we'll know shortly if it was, if it is gonna adjust the heat at all. So the water usage, again, now that we've been in there for almost 2 years, I've got a little bit of historical data to go by. So I dropped $100 off of that, down to $2,900. And I bumped the irrigation system back a little bit too, which I'm gonna get a check on shortly. We had it up to 15 minutes twice a day for the new lawn, but now that it's established, we can cut it back. So again, with the actual usage and then the anticipation of not running it as much, it should be okay there. Hydrant fees, that's the same, that's for the water district.
When was the last time those were flushed?
They get flushed apparently,
No, they don't.
maybe this year.
No, and they're required by, I already called the state on it, because you're required to flush by law twice a year, and they haven't done it. They have to notify they have to notify you 2 weeks in advance, public posting, and they haven't done it, so it hasn't been done in 4 or 5 years.
It's been more than that.
Well, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt.
The other thing I'm really gonna need is documentation on that because it's affecting our ISO rating. I've got no documentation on any hydrant maintenance or, flushing.
That's
And
That's why I refuse to pay for hydrants, so that's,
it's gone, we'd be able to get enough points just by them providing us documentation to bump us from a class 6 to a class 5. That's how much we're missing it by. So, telephone. It's $475 less, and that is, I disconnected, well, I've been trying to disconnect the phone at Station 2, and that's gonna save $430 a year. That phone probably hasn't made a phone call, unless you've made one out of there, and who knows how long. Now that everybody has cell phone service, just seemed like an easy place to cut $400. And then another $45 based on averages that I've been seeing with my monthly bills that I keep track of. And that, for Station 1, that includes 2 lines that we have people can call in on, and the fax line, and the fax line is used as the fire alarm line. Public education, that's what we use for the pamphlets for the kids at the schools during Fire Prevention Week. any materials we need for CPR classes, and also the Woods Water and Wildlife Festival, the stuff that Captain Bellin hands out up there when he attends that annually. So that's the same. Printing's $50 less. That's the color copies that were charged for at the station quarterly, and any stationery, business cards, letterhead, that type of stuff, envelopes, apartment envelopes. Supplies, they took $1,000 out of that. We're at like $2,600 for the year, and we've got most everything we need. The only thing that would really affect that is if we started using water phone, because that's about $100 a gallon. The reason it had gone up to $4,500 a few years ago was to pay for the filters at the old station, which we don't have anymore. Vehicle fuel, it's up $250, it's 6% overspent to date, and that's just gasoline. So, the prices have gone up since we last made any adjustments to that. That line was always around 3,000. We tried bringing it down as the gas prices dropped, but it's time to compensate and bring it back up again. Diesel fuel, 18% overspent to date, so I'm asking for an extra $1,200. And again, the price of diesel's been going up steadily, and we didn't make any adjustments to compensate for that last year, so it hit us this year. Building maintenance, I left the same, $19.95. So most building maintenance stuff is covered by government buildings. However, there's certain things that I just want to make sure I took care of myself, and it was directly related to the building. So the sprinkler test, which has to be done every year, and the biannual generator maintenance, PMs and that type of stuff. Final vent we haven't had to do yet because it was it's new, but that will be $950. So that pretty much eats up the $19.95. If anything else comes up,
Your generator is expensive.
that's expensive for two PMs.
Yep.
I'll show you the stuff. We're using one in Barrington.
Is that the only one you got a quote from?
It was, I don't remember honestly, but it was one of the only service areas for that type of generator in the area, or the most local service one. Do you know of another one?
Mm-hmm.
Well, compare it. Send it to me. But it is a major and a minor PM. I don't know if that,
Yeah.
anyway. Vehicle maintenance, 14,000. It's one of those things that we always overspend. I'm at about 10,000 right now. And I have the packings to do on the pump engine 4, and there's a $400 bill outstanding for something to do with the turbo in the older ambulance, and the annual pump test still needs to be done. So 15, $2,000. I got like $3,500 in pending stuff right now, which will pretty much finish that line off already. And that's not counting anything that might happen between now and December. Equipment purchase, that's staying the same. So I've started replacing the 4-inch hose about 4 years ago. We missed a couple of years because there was other things that took up the money. I got 1,000 feet left to go, and then we need to start replacing the 2.5 and the 1.5 line. Some of it dates back to 1982. And then the others, there's a bunch from the 90s, and a bunch from 2005 was the last time we bought 1 3/4 attack line. So all that, we're gonna go through and replace all that over the next 3 years. And altogether, it's probably $16,000 to $18,000 to do all the 2.5 and 1.5 line. So we'll do the same thing we did with the 4-inch line and piecemeal it over the next few years. Nozzles, we still have some older nozzles. They're over $800 a piece, and pagers are a little more than $500 now. Again, we went a long time without buying pagers because we had enough that were working, and we started using online or apps on our phones that were notifying us. But again, there's technical difficulties, and it's not instantaneous. instantaneous. So the older pages need to be replaced. I bought 4 this year, and prior to that, it was probably 4 years ago that I bought 3. And we've got probably over 20 of them, 30 of them. Not everybody has one. But anyway, yeah, that's staying the same, 16.5. Equipment lease, that's the $312 that we were talking about. Took that out. And again, the reason that was a $105 increase on the other side is because there was the $200 maintenance contract that I wasn't paying for. As a contract, I'll pay for it as I need maintenance. So part-time EMS on call, that was 2007 or 8 warrant article for $26,000. They give a stipend for the EMTs to cover nights and weekends. We've been milking that along right around $26,000 to $30,000. We'll be at about 32 this year. So one of the things I provided you guys was a secondary budget, which showed the cost to have 2 people on duty 24 hours a day. That was in the other packet. Aaron, you're not gonna see that. Second page of the big packet. Basically, it's about another $100,000. And that'll provide 2 EMTs around the clock, 24/7. Right now, the way it works is the full-time people work a 24-hour shift. Is that the one with the $100,000 increase, or is it? Flip it one more time. That one right there. So that's not what I'm presenting to you. I'm just letting you know that that's the direction we need to go. Whether we start adding a little bit every year, or whether we put it on the warrant article and let people decide if they want 24/7 ambulance coverage. I know it's a lot of money, but I'm just letting you know. It's the direction we need to go. Wakefield now has 7 full-time employees, and they do about the same amount of calls as we do, maybe a little bit more. Farmington has had around-the-clock coverage for several years now. Lebanon doesn't have full around-the-clock coverage, but they cover till, last I knew, till 10 o'clock at night. But the way we do it is the 2 full-time employees work a 24-hour shift, so there's only 2 of them. So roughly 3.5 nights a week, there's at least 1 person guaranteed. Then the people that sign up to be on call at night to cover the ambulance, they have the option to stay at the station or cover from home. About 50% of the time they'll be at the station, and 50% of the time they'll cover from home. And there's a difference in the stipend. If they cover from home, they get $4 an hour. If they cover from the station, they get $8 an hour. And that was just to incentivize and encourage people to be at the station. In the bigger packet that I gave you, I provided response times for the last 3 years. So if you look at 2016, the night response has decreased only by a couple minutes, but that's again because it's only about 25% covered. And if you look at response times for last year when we were in the station, they were again decreased because there's more people at the station, and some people started spending the night that lived out of town voluntarily. And then you could see from 2016 when we were in the old station, there was never anybody there at night, so the response times were higher. So we've seen slightly decreased. And then you can also see the difference between day shift when they're there versus the night shift when it's partially covered. It's roughly double. It goes from about 7-minute average response time to 14 minutes or so. And those average response times include all incidents, and they include in-town and out-of-town responses. So if we're going to Farmington, or Middleton, Lebanon, Acton, Rochester, you have a 20-minute response time that's affecting our average response time here in town. So I could break it down if you guys are really interested in that, but I didn't want to bore you with that stuff.
Did you look at safer grants?
Honestly, I haven't, because the last time I looked at them, we didn't really meet the minimum criteria to be eligible for it.
What is that now?
Basically, you have to prove that you need it, and by not having so many people on scene within so many minutes, and when I pulled all the data, we met the minimum qualifications for, NFPA 1720, which dictates the response time, and we exceeded it. So without having proof that we don't exceed those response times, it's kind of hard to say we need. I can look at it again, but I've been focusing on the grants for the air packs and the ladder truck, so I haven't really dove into that one in too much detail. But again, I'm not asking for any additional full-time people, although once we get to that point, that's the next step. And there's definitely dependability issues with part-time employees, because their primary job becomes their primary responsibility, so, which can't blame them. Their livelihood is their livelihood, so.
How many full-time employees are going to be eligible for benefits?
2 full-time employees, one I believe takes a buyout and one doesn't.
Okay.
No family plans at this point. What else do we have? So, total budget is $451,271, up $7,331. And like I said, there's absolutely nothing new in this budget. It's all the same stuff. The only increases are salaries and the associated FICA, Medicare, retirement, and then the heat and electric, which not a lot I can do about that. So, any questions on that at all? Anything? A lot more information in here if you get a chance to look through it.
They skimmed it, but I had to work today.
All right, thank you. Emergency management next.
Oh, same as last year. So, just, it hasn't changed in, I don't know, 15 years maybe, except for FICA Medicare was added to it, because they stopped paying it as a stipend. With an I-9, they paid it as an employee, which for whatever reason, I don't know why that happened, just different changeable people or whatever, so that got added. And the electric line was added last year, and that will be fine the same. So what we were doing, just so you guys know, the repeater tower, I don't know where it was being paid at one point, and then it was realized that, well, it's the fire department, so the fire department should be paying for it. So, we ended up splitting it between police, fire, and highway, because we all have stuff up there. Which was, the bill come in every month, we get divided by 3 and then applied to the different lines. So instead of creating all that extra work, we decided emergency management was the function of the townwide repeater, and police and fire fall under that category, so we just put it in there so it could be applied to.
Is the sheriff's office still up there?
They are,
And they still,
they're paying,
the land,
so they,
okay, the rent.
yeah.
Okay.
I thought about that the other day, to give this to the sheriff and say, why don't you pay this? And then I remembered that they're paying the lease on the land.
Yeah.
And we need to do some building maintenance up there, desperately. So, I'm gonna probably work on a work order for that. But again, I didn't know if that was something the sheriff should be doing, or if we were gonna do, so, it's on my list of things to do. And the fence needs to be repaired. But again, there's nothing in here for, equipment maintenance, so we had to buy batteries this year, that came out of the fire department budget. I should probably put $400 or $500 in there for maintenance at some point, cover that. And again, just a heads up, something to think about is infrastructure for that repeater. When did we get that, 2005? Must have been.
I don't know.
So that's gonna need to be replaced, and I'm gonna be adding it to the CIP next year. And power is how old, that's gonna have to be probably looked at some point too. So I'll work on that. CIP next year, ready for it.
All right, thank you. Welfare.
The biggest increase is going to be reflected in the salary, training, and mileage lines. As you can see, right now, everything, all of my salary is taken out of this particular line. As you're aware, I am also Heather's assistant. I have it broken down that, in the actual Excel sheet, you can see that 20 hours is dedicated to the welfare department side of things. And then 10 hours is associated to the admin assistant. It's a total of the 33, but if I was to break it down, almost 11,000 would then go into Heather's line.
How come it doesn't come out of, that has nothing to do with welfare, so how come that's not?
It was
go on?
the job position.
It was in the position.
I understand that, but it's not a welfare function, it's out of yours, so it should come out of your budget, not.
It just, that's how it was done.
As I was hired in, that's how it was hired as, that's how the previous board had it set up. I have no problem separating it,
Well, I
just
think, just for cleanness, I think it's move it back to where it
The
belongs.
10 hours,
as
the
of
10
why
hours.
I
The 20 and then the
outlined
10.
it.
That's why it's broken up, so we could talk about that. Cause Danielle and I did have that conversation earlier today. We've had it a couple times actually. Cause there was a point, there was 10 hours, there was in my budget, just for administrative, the one time there was 20 hours, another time there was 12 hours, that different people have had that part-time position of admin.
Well, I just don't, it doesn't need to be in the
Yeah.
welfare when it has nothing to do with welfare, so,
And another time,
to be clean.
yeah, and other times it's shown up in different lines. But that's, when it was done.
18 was done as the budget was presented and created, as it was given to me in 17. Heather and I have spoken. We agree it should be split. It's not my decision to split it amongst, that's something that I need your, I can't make, I don't have the authority to just go in and
But that's,
pick and choose where my,
I think there's a line in my budget that belongs in, but that's kind of really.
No, when I got this, I'm waiting, why is this in the welfare, it has nothing to do with
Because it was the
welfare.
position, and
That's-
prior to her, the person who had the same title had the same role. I know,
It
it
doesn't
doesn't make
matter,
sense.
the bottom line is, it's not a welfare issue, and I mean, if you're looking at, if you're looking at apples and apples, you're not, you're looking at apples, oranges,
I
and
agree.
so.
Yep.
And so for cleanliness, it should go back in the correct line, so.
It broke out.
FICA and Medicare are reflective of the salary. It's pretty self-explanatory there. The training, I use the training that is offered. Past clerks, if you look back in their budgets and their expenditures, it was always offered, it just wasn't ever taken. If something's offered to me to help better myself in the town, I'm going to go after it. You can see the increase there. That's not including any administration or budgetary workshops. That's strictly welfare workshops.
And I think I can speak to part of the way it's benefited the town is the increase in liens that have been paid off because of all the additional training that we've taken part of.
I have one client under myself that has a lien. I have 7 new liens filed that were prior to me coming into this department, that were never filed before. And I re-notified or notified 13 other clients of the liens that they have. I can't give you a full dollar amount of how much those 20 liens could potentially be. We accrue interest once a year at 6%. I can tell you that since I've taken office, I've had one completely paid off. I have one that's in progress making payments and one that's near completion. That's, yeah. And again, only one of the 20 is my actual client that I've seen in my office.
For these calls. That part of it is benefiting from training.
The electric line, I've decreased from 6,000 to 3,500. Basically, it's just a decrease in usage. We offer a Stratford cap to our residents. They have a fuel assistance program, and it seems to really be benefiting townspeople. That's part of the pre-requirements before you come in for an application. You need to have proof that you've gone to your outside agencies. The Stratford Cap would be the outside agency for this. Heat is along the same lines. Stratford Cap has their fuel assistance program. I've decreased it from 9,000 down to 7,000. I can't predict the weather, as Ryan is very well aware of, so we can't base anything
You
off of
beat me
that.
to it, I was gonna say something about that. Last year I asked a question about that line, I get the response, I'm not a weatherman.
Rent and mortgage, it was at 25, I dropped it down to 18. Stratford Cap has a security deposit program. Basically, they help out on either the first month's or security deposit. They have a lump sum that they have per year. Once that's exceeded, of course, that program is shut down. It's not a huge asset like the fuel and electric assistance, but it is another avenue for clients to use. My food expenses, I dropped it down from 1,000 down to 500. The Wakefield Food Pantry, as well as Stratford Cap, are amazing assets to the town. The Wakefield Food Pantry is open Wednesdays from 10 to 1 and 5 to 7. Stratford Cap in Farmington is open Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 to 4, along with other churches, and the Rochester Cap office is open Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So there's a lot of other options other than getting a food voucher from the town.
Part of your job is to educate people about options too.
Again, with the whole prerequisite or the requirements before you come into the office is supplying your notice of decision from agencies stating that you've received food stamps and such. Medical, the line was at 2,000, I dropped it down to 1,000, just decreased based on usage. Supplies, I'm remaining at 300, and again, that's based on usage. My postage, I am currently at $100 in the budget. I've reduced it down to $50. I'm pretty close to that $50 mark currently. But like I said, I've sent out quite a few lien notices. Not only notices to the residents, but that's also having those liens, once they're filed from the registry, they send them back to my office, for my own filing. Typically my liens are sent out certified depending on the situation. Equipment, I've reduced by $50 down to $150, and that, again, that's just based on usage. my mileage, it is currently over exceeded, and that's halfway through the year. That was the payout from January to June. I have a request of 526 from the 100. That is based on just the workshops that pertain to the welfare department. That's not including any administrative or budgetary workshops. That's also not including any visits to the registry of deeds to file any liens or to release any of the liens. The reason for the increase is we don't have access to a town vehicle. Miscellaneous, I had 2,500 in this line. I've expended $2,575. I'm decreasing this line to $100 to keep it open and to act as a true miscellaneous line. And this decrease is to reflect an additional line. The additional line would be for final expenses alone, which is currently what the miscellaneous line is currently what the final expenses is paid out of. I'm requesting that new line to be $3,000, and that's approximately for final expenses paid out at $750 each.
Sure. Donations.
Yes. Each cemetery or crematory or funeral home is a little bit different in varying pricing. That is pretty much the norm for funeral homes as well as other welfare departments in the area. That's right around the same pricing that all of us offer to clients. The total budget, to keep it as salaried in the way it was presented last year, it's a total increase of $3,549. If I was to take out that $10 hours for both the salary, the FICA, and the Medicare, it would bring the total welfare budget to $5,120.
50,000.
Do that again?
58,120.
58,120.
Yep, and 65 cents.
That's one of the two items in town that we're required to fund. We have to maintain the road, we have to maintain the poor. Can I ask, same question I'm asking everybody, in your department, are any full-time employees eligible for benefits?
I don't take anything.
And they're part-time,
I
correct?
am part-time,
So there's
even
no-
with the additional hours in your budget.
So there's no benefits, no?
So the board is there a consensus that we'd like to see the 10 hours taken out and put in the town administrator budget?
Yep.
Yep. Again, I have no problem doing that. I just wanted your blessing to say so before I should have done this myself. Is that all the questions that there?
I'm good with it.
I assume you guys
I'm
need
good.
frivolous notes. You look confused.
So we're gonna discuss these prior to the presentations of the next ones,
So you, Aaron, you good with it?
Yeah,
You sure?
yeah,
Okay.
I was just looking at, that's my appropriation.
All right, so welfare, last one outside appropriation. This one?
when do they have, what's the deadline for them to get theirs in on the outside appropriations?
Once
There's some that
and presented tonight. I only am missing 2.
Hayden came back today.
Here, I updated it. So I'm waiting on a cornerstone and
I mean, Cornerstone is by far the biggest that's,
I do have last year's request for both of those if it's something that you wanted to look at. I have all of the requests that have come in with their letters and their backings. If that's something that you
no, I
wanted to
mean,
look at as well.
I don't know how to wave a flag at them, it's just a huge, it's a huge asset to the town, I just hate to see them. We can give them a call and find out what the heck they're doing.
I mean, I emailed them the application or the request, as well as mailed it to them on the 11th. I mean, I can't, I guess I could go knock on their door, but that's. Where I live.
Do you wanna go through each one?
Mhm.
Do you wanna go through each one?
Yeah, sure. So Stratford Tap, which is probably our biggest, I say supporter because they do support the town, in multiple different directions, between the food pantry, their heating and electrical, I mean, they, for what they're given, it's, I don't know. They're requesting again this year of $7,250. Again, I have all of their information if it's something that you wanted to see. Homemakers Health Services, they are requesting $2,000. Haven is requesting.
Wait, which one's that now?
Homemakers Health Services,
How much are they, it's not in the book, that's
2,000, it's on the new one, that's
what,
what
okay,
it's in here.
okay.
I do have Haven, yeah.
Is Haven really an increase to $18,000?
Hayden has about,
Not mine.
was the one that came in tonight?
Mm-hmm.
No, 1,800.
me that.
They asked for 1,800. 1,800.
Okay, I was gonna,
I
that's
just gonna say,
huge.
that was,
When we had another zero.
That's what happens when you get requested at 4:45 for a 5 o'clock meeting. Okay.
what is Haven?
Haven Violence Prevention and Support Services.
Chief Rouse's got his hand up in support.
Go for it.
It's the combination of the domestic violence services, SAS services, as well as 2 other agencies. They all combined into one.
Formerly Safe Place.
Correct.
I think this one's Sequus, 100. Okay.
400 for age response.
I'm still beginning with it.
American Legion is requesting the same.
800.
CASA's requesting the same of 500.
Why is the safe place on here and then it's blank all the way across the board?
So that combined
The
with
Safe
Haven.
Place was combined with
Okay.
Haven.
Must be that. on the Cornerstone DNA, how, have we always, I mean, for how many years previously have we gone back with them? I mean, is this something that maybe just an oversight on their part, they thought they mailed it out, I mean, is it,
I mean, that's huge
right,
for,
it's
that's
really big.
between the services they provide and,
I know they left me a message that
Thank
they
you.
were provided, they were sending their
Mention
stuff
them.
in.
Cornerstone DNA,
If I remember right, even last year, a lot of these came in
Oh,
Yeah,
last minute.
They were on the last.
And
minute.
this is like
When
2
we
months
requested,
ahead of schedule.
and we still got everything up.
but I think
very
we need to
last
kind
minute.
of like put a, you know, sticky there that it's probably pending.
Oh, yeah, they did call with message, and I'm looking on it, but this was maybe last week, cause I did get some letters from some calls from my voicemail last week.
And I almost think,
Even from last year, there is no actual request. The board chose to operate off of past approval amounts.
And there were a couple they did that.
I mean, that one is huge to the community. Cornerstone between the VNA and the hospice, what they provide is, I just hate to not fund it.
2016 and 17 both were just $4,598.
Okay, so about $1,000 increase over last year.
The request last year was $5,652.
Can you call them and ask them?
I've emailed and mailed both, but yeah, I can call them.
Call and say. Okay. More information they have about CASA, it's 500 we said, right?
What is CASA?
Court appointed special,
Special advocate.
Yeah.
special advocates,
Okay.
they have a lot of kids. Stratford Nutrition Meals on Wheels, and that's 1,500 that came in. Wakefield Food Pantry, that provides enormous amount of services for the town. 2,500.
They're currently feeding, just in the year that they've opened Milton up to their demographics, they're currently feeding 40 families, which is a total of 129 individuals as of August.
Sponsorship is 2,500, which is our DARE program. And the Wakefield Resource Center is $1,000.
What's the increase in DF, just for,
The increase is the same as it was last year.
last year was 1,500, this year's 2,500. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what it says.
According to this.
Oh,
It was 1,500 last year, and this year it's 2,500, it just,
well, 25.
Shouldn't have changed last year.
No, it was 25 last year.
so this book, what I've got here is wrong?
No typo wrong. It was 25 last year. It's the same amount as last year. It's 25 last year.
Your budget request is not. It's 1,500, it's currently expended of 1,408.
Well, Wakefield Resource Center.
I'm sorry, expended of 91.
Did we decrease it because previous treasurer put it into a revolving fund?
She might have.
And there was money left over, so that's probably why we brought it down to 1,500.
Okay. But originally it was 2,500. Cause I know we talked about it.
So I'll bring it back to 1,500, cause
Okay.
there's probably some money left in that.
So we're gonna check the revolving account, I'll check with the current treasurer.
To find out what's left in that account.
So that one's going back 15.
Bring it back to 1,500
And I'm gonna check with the treasurer,
to see what's left over.
because the cost is 25.
That's usually what is spent on the
Yeah.
class. And if we are able to, once we get back to full staff, if we are able to do the middle school and do the middle school classes, then we're gonna need the 2,500. We're spending almost $1,500 just in the elementary school class.
All right. Everybody good?
That's good.
So, moving on. Next we are at approval of minutes. September 10th, 2018, Board of Selectmen meeting minutes.
Motion accepted as written.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I'll forget that. Next up is administrator comments.
Thank you all for coming tonight and sticking with us through this long meeting. I guess I have one thing, I gave the Board of Selectmen some information on cemetery costs from around the state that we were able to do some research on, so hopefully you have a chance to review that. I don't have anything else tonight. The weather's getting colder and I guess that means fall's upon us, so. And budget season, it's a busy time of year.
All right, so move on to selectmen comments.
Good.
I got a few. I'll try to make them quick. All right, so planning board, just a couple updates from the planning board. So at the last meeting, September 18th, the 2019 to 2024 CIP was approved. I will put it on the next agenda. I believe all the selectmen were supposed to be sent copies. So I'll put it on the next agenda to discuss. Also, at the last planning board meeting, the Mackenzie's Farm, the greenery site plan application, there was a public hearing and that application was approved to go forward. And just to update the Board of Selectmen on what the planning board is working on, they're currently working on discussions about potential zoning amendment, the amendment of table of principles, uses, and basically looking at where special exceptions are needed, adding definition, and going through that table to see if there's some things that really don't need special exceptions. Then the Rec Commission, there's the 4th annual trunk or treat, which is, I know it's a little early, but Saturday, October 20th from 5 to 8 at the Milton Town Beach. People who are interested in participating in the trunk or treat with a vehicle is asked to have their application in by October 16th. You can get more information on this by contacting the rec department at 603-652-4501, extension 8. Also, you'll find on the rec department Facebook page more information on this and the application if you're interested in doing a trunk or treat. And just for the Board of Selectmen, to let them know that the last Rec Commission meeting, there was discussion on bylaws. They were amending them to update them to current practices. Once that's officially done and voted on, I will share those bylaws with the Board of Selectmen, so everybody's on the same page.
Can you take that from me?
Sure.
I just wanna say thank you to New Hampshire, I got a sore throat. New Hampshire Farm Museum for sponsoring that wonderful event that Ryan and I were able to attend. I just wanna say that Ryan ate a lot more pie than I did. 16
16 in our category, yeah.
in his category, but It was really a good time, I think, we had a great turnout up there, and it was a lot of fun.
You made 16 bucks.
Not the whole thing, but just a couple bites of each one. All right,
Wow.
I think, one thing I missed at the beginning of the meeting, I just realized is we did not take a vote on the non-public we had. So we had non-public under 91A 3 to C, in regards to reputation. I'll make a motion that we seal those indefinitely. All in favor?
Aye.
We also had a discussion under 91A 3 to C, which also has to do with reputation. I will make a motion to seal those indefinitely. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we had a third one, under 91A 3 to C, in regards to reputation. I also make a motion to seal those indefinitely.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right,
We took them from the beginning.
great, we got one more.
That's for sure. Well, it's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, so, make a motion to go into non-public, anyway, A 3 to C.
We got 2 minutes, right?
All right. Go ahead. All right, so I'll take that motion back, and we'll go into a 5-minute recess.